Good afternoon, Year 7. Sorry I'm not with you today. I'd like to step you through, with this screencast, step you through your EDM composition, or just making a start on your EDM composition. Now, I appreciate there might be a few issues come up today in my absence, but please have a go and refer back to this video if you need a bit of help navigating through Garageband. Now, what we're going to have a look at is just from Canvas, we're going to go to Composition Task 2, just in the middle tile here. And what I need you to do first is download this second link here, so EDM Wave Samples. Now within that there's a whole bunch of sampled files that I'd like you to use within your composition. Now you would have already referred to the task sheet and you should have a blue hard copy in front of you now. So you'll see that I'm asking you to use some loops, some samples and also some original content within there. Now if you click on this and download this, it's a zip file and it'll come up looking something a little bit like this. If you unpackage that by just double clicking, it'll open to this, and what you actually have is a whole range of different samples that you can use. So an important thing to think about and when you're working with this one is that we're basically just clicking on it once and pressing spacebar to preview the sound. If you double click and open, it'll open in iTunes, and it's a little bit more cumbersome if you do it that way. So if I click on this one here and press spacebar, we can hear that sound file there. Now they're all queued up towards the end of the track here because they need to lock into beats of 4 essentially. So there are heaps of those for you to choose from and integrate into your composition just there. Okay, so our EDM samples. Now please make sure you save that to a USB. Everything that you're doing today needs to go onto a USB, please. If we go back to, if we jump into Garageband, this is the composition sample that I showed you the other day, and we'll have a quick listen and a quick talk through things. This here, this orange track is a sample. The blue one here, let's get rid of that. The blue one here is a loop, and the green one is original content. Now we'll just have a quick listen to refresh what we're looking to work towards.
Space jump. Activation.
So you can see within this track we've got the loops in blue. This is the sampled content here, and this seismic line here is my drum beat that you might hear that I've put in as an original track. Okay, so there we go. So there's a little bit to take in there, I know. Now this is an interface or layout of GarageBand. Now that's a worked project, but what you'll see when you open GarageBand is this. This is the first screen you'll come to. Now to access GarageBand, it should be in your dock down the bottom, this symbol, but if not, you can push that little sign up there, the spotlight search, and start typing GarageBand, and it will come up and you can open it that way. But if we go back here, I want you to start an empty project, so just choose. And we're going to use software instrument, play sounds from your Mac, so that's highlighted, so create. Just going to get rid of this musical keyboard by going Window, Hide Musical Typing, and then this is what we're left with here. So to get started today, all I really want you to do is a very, very entry-level kind of just experience, explore, experiment kind of process today for you, is to have a look through these loops here. So this looks like a roller coaster almost, the loop of a roller coaster here are our loops. And essentially what you can do is filter them through this section here and then select them here. You just need to click on them once to preview them, just like that. So it's probably not quite the sound we're looking for. I also need to say too, these grayed out ones are ones that aren't accessible on my computer, but you'll have every single one of them activated. It's just a space issue with me. So potentially we might start with drums, and we might check out a float beat. So we'll preview it by clicking it once. It sounds okay. We'll try another one. Another one. So I like a float beat the most out of those. So if I click and drag a float beat just over to here, and drop it in, it'll insert it there. Now what we're going to do is just click on the classic electric piano track and press delete to get rid of it because we don't need it at this stage. We're going to be dropping everything in through that window there. So our float beat sounds like this, and I can activate and use it by just navigating through these CD shuffle controls here. Okay, so you get the idea there. If you like the sound of that, we can continue it on to drag it out. Now don't forget last week we talked about structure and form and texture and how parts and everything work together. So we're looking for a cohesive musical piece. So we're going to have beats that come back and unify the work by being repeated later on and things like that. But what we'll need to do first is just really ascertain which ones we want to work with. Now there are hundreds and hundreds of them in here too. We probably need some kind of bass in here now. Yeah, that's very EDM, so we're going to click on that one and drag it in. Now if we pop them both in at the same time at the start, actually sounds quite alright, but it might be a little bit too much musical information to take in at one time. So what we need to do is make sure that we layer and structure this in a way that is a little bit more suitable. So our ear will get used to this sound, acknowledge that that's happening as this other part comes in, so we can process two different things at once. And you might have felt that came in a little bit too early. Don't forget we work in fours in music a lot of the time, so let's try bringing it in 8 counts later. Okay, so what I've actually done is probably brought in a little bit too early again, so I'll go back and try. So we just experiment and go around like that. This playhead here we can drag to wherever we want to start the music, and spacebar will activate the play, or we can use these CD shuffle controls as well. So basically I want you to have a look through all of these today. If these are grayed out, we reset and we have access to all of these different sounds again. Okay, so all of yours will be highlighted. If we just press on it once, we get the sample. Okay, so on the subject of samples, if we go back to our samples, which I closed, our samples work in the same kind of way. Now there are a lot of these here, and you'll need to really take a little bit of time going through them and working out what best sort of fit. This number here down the side is the beats per minute that we're working with. So that'll just help you integrate it into this a little bit more. We can see our BPM up here. We can change that by just clicking and dragging up and down. So we're going to go with 110. And you hear that has adjusted the actual speed of it. And then we can really access and use these 110 samples here. So we'll try this one. Okay, let's use Money in the Bank. We'll click and drag it over into here. So same process, click and drag, and we'll see how this sounds. Okay, that's actually not too bad. So what we're going to have a look at doing, if you're feeling quite confident with experimenting through and just picking a lot of sounds, you can actually favourite sounds down the side here, that little love heart, and just check it's not activated, apologies. So click on this one and that'll save in your favourites up here. It's a good way to sort of filter through them. But what I'll get you to do today is just explore and experiment through those and pick ones that you might like to work with. And please understand that this process doesn't just go linearly from A to B. There's a whole range of reflection and changing and shaping and resolving different issues as you work towards that final product. So what we can do if you're feeling quite confident with that and have selected a few sounds is start to manipulate those a little bit more. So if we click on that symbol there, that's our volume controls. We have a main sort of fader here that we can go up and down with, or we can actually manipulate this one a little bit as well. So if I click anywhere in there, that sound envelope, we then have this, so I can drag it up and down. You'll see the main fader sliding over here as well. So we're aiming to keep that central. And then what you can do is actually click along that line as well and manipulate it that way. This is probably not the most musical approach, but you'll see the idea. So if we go back. So you can see the effect of that volume adjustment too. So just to really quickly revise, I know I spoke through quite a bit of stuff. This is really about experimenting today. We can take the top of a sound file, drag it out to repeat loops. We can really easily move things around. It's fairly intuitive to use the software. If you get stuck and loops disappear, it's this activation button up here. CD controls, the shuffle controls, which should be quite fine with up there. Please don't forget that when you're in these samples that we're just clicking on it once and hitting spacebar to preview that sound. And you're going to have a good look through all of those today and try and find out which ones you like to integrate into this composition. So today, what I'd like you to do is have a bit of a play around, just get used to using the program. There's no requirement for you today to really walk away with any sort of product or remnant of any product. It's all about you just getting used to controls and the software. If you do like what you've created, you need to save to your USB. So everything that you do with me in music this term needs to be saved to your own USB. Now you'll be in a group of 2, so I'd recommend that both of you save it to your USB. Save this EDM folder to your USB as well. So everything should be contained on there because things do go wrong and disappear. And these Macs aren't networked in the same way as your PC, so it won't actually save up to the server. You could email these tracks to yourself. They're not large Garageband files, but please just use your USB for ease of access and moving around between machines. So what I want you to do now is essentially get into starting to have a bit of a play yourself. So I need you to organise yourselves into groups of 2. I want you to write those groups down for me, please, and let me know who you're working with. I don't mind actually who you work with this term. And I'd also like you to make sure that you're using headphones. There shouldn't be any sound that comes out of the computer. It should be straight through your headphones. Now you can plug into the back or on the side of the computers are things called M boxes. They're a little grey sort of thing with buttons on the front and input jacks on the front. If you plug into that, that's fine as well. There are some adapters, please, that need to come back that your teacher will have, and I just need you to leave the room nice and clean and tidy and headphones wrapped up and back in the top drawer. Okay, guys, so have fun experimenting with this. Don't stress too much if you sort of get a little bit stuck or something doesn't work. I'm sure there are a few of you in the class who have used this before and they could potentially become our little experts for the session, and I'm sorry to be missing you again and look forward to seeing you next week. Okay, so get cracking, find some great samples and great loops, and consider the sheet that I gave you last week about structure, texture and timbre of EDM music, how it's built, how it's designed, and just use your musical ear because that will tell you if it's sounding like a well-structured, cohesive work. Okay, enjoy.